This week on Take It Outside.
Coney ended up being chased out of Uganda and went into the Congo. And then Obama sent special operations after him, like 12.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. I believe so, right?
I think it's like undeclared, like whether he's killed or alive.
Yeah, I remember the strikes going on. I remember that when that was a big thing.
Yeah.
The general population, they've mentally decided, hey, I want to do this workout. I don't mentally.
And then I'm getting my Starbucks. I can't wait to get my big sandwich.
Mentally, I don't want to go past my threshold and try to keep going.
If you look inside any freaking house in the United States, there's so many problems that everyone has, and they're all similar.
But you feel alone if you're not talking.
So why don't we link arms and fight these problems together?
We did a marathon a month for a year.
What?
Yeah.
People.
This podcast was brought to you by Outsider. Check us out at www.outsider.com. Outsider is an outdoor lifestyle brand owned and operated by me, retired Navy SEAL Sam Mackey, and my dear friend and former NFL quarterback Jay Cutler. At Outsider, we encourage everyone to get outside and enjoy all that life has to offer. Head over to outsider.com to check out our unique patent-pending drinkware. Outsider's drinkware can be customized with your personal or business logo. Go to outsider.com, upload your logo, and we will send you visual proofs and great wholesale pricing. And don't forget, get outside and enjoy all that life has to offer. Welcome back to the Take It Outside podcast. It's a podcast where we talk all things outdoors and just getting outside in general where life happens. I'm your host, Sam Mackey, and as always, I have my co-host, Smoking Jay Cutler. Today we have Dustin Diefenderfer, founder of MTNTOUGH, a training program built for backcountry athletes, military, and anyone who wants to get tougher mentally and physically. Let's get into how it started and what it's all about, bud. I appreciate you coming out.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for having me. That last name. That was a toughie.
Diefenderfer?
Yeah.
Oh, I was worried about it all night.
It's like a German black village forest name.
Like out of, like by Stuttgart is your family from?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's the direct translation is the actual village. It's crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been there. To the Black Forest, not to Diefenderfer. I might have been for shit. I don't know.
You could have saw one of my cousins or something.
Probably drink a beer with them. So, are you originally from Montana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, what'd your parents do? What was life like growing up there?
So I grew up in Billings, which is a little bit more east, and then just came from this big family. My dad grew up at the foothills of the Bighorn Mountains. And then came to Billings when I was super young, but his whole family was from Sheridan, Wyoming. And Sheridan, Wyoming is just beautiful backcountry all around it with the Cloud Peak wilderness. But the cool thing that happened to me was my dad came from a family of 9. And so 7 of them were boys, 2 were girls. So I had 7 uncles just to pal around with all the time in the Bighorns. And that was just like normal for us. All we did was go in the backcountry, horseback, fly fishing, camping, hunting. Just with that many uncles passionate about the outdoors, we were up there a lot.
I bet. What was your favorite thing to hunt growing up?
For me, it was when I was younger. It was interesting. My dad grew up on that ranch at the foothills of the Bighorns, and for him, hunting was interesting because it was like, as a kid on a ranch at that time, they're like, we just shot deer and elk when we needed to eat, especially with 9 kids. Yeah, like with 9 kids on a ranch, they're like, when we needed more meat in the freezer, we just like shot some deer. And so he didn't think hunting was that cool because he grew up, they just shot stuff when they needed it with a family like that. So when I was younger, I was obsessed with fly fishing, really outdoorsy. Wanted my dad to take me hunting a bunch, but for him, he's a great father, so he wanted to be there. But for him, hunting wasn't as cool as I thought it was.
It was like work.
Yeah, he's like, we just shot stuff out of the truck when we needed to feed some of the kids. But my parents got divorced, and the divorce drove my dad into this archery community, which has been a huge blessing for me. The divorce kind of like wrecked my dad, and these guys were kind of like helping him through that divorce, like trying to figure out all of what was going on. It was through like some addiction stuff with my mom. So when he was figuring that out, the guys that like kind of circled around him were competitive indoor archery guys. So they were shooting indoor archery tournaments, going to like nationals in Vegas and stuff like that, which is a cool part of my journey because of that like catalyst of the divorce led him to the archery shop, and it led him to this obsession with archery. And that was about when I was 12. So when I turned 12, like the next like 10 years, we just lived in the archery shop. And so that's what started kind of this whole archery elk hunting journey for me. Was like a super negative thing turned into a really positive thing.
What bows were you guys shooting
Back then?
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny, man, because my very first hunting bow was a Darton.
Okay.
And Darton's not even around anymore. But I loved that thing. Like so many people, it's pretty common for people to want like their first bow back. I'd love to have my first bow back.
Was that a compound bow or
Compound.
recurve? Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were shooting compound. Darton was my first one. There was like bear archery was more popular back then, and then we started getting some of those like the really old Matthews. It was awesome.
What year did tags become a thing?
Like hunting tags?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
For like non-residents?
No, just like you said, and I know this is common way back then, especially in rural areas with big families. People going out and shooting animals for meat. But were they worried about tags? Did they have tags?
No, it was super illegal. It was still super illegal.
Okay.
But they just didn't care, like because it was illegal, but they're just out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And less people. And then like my grandpa was kind of this entrepreneur, so there would be times where they had a lot of money and times where they didn't have a lot of money, and so they were just doing it for food. Yeah, it's wild.
Are you a Matthews guy still?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I bought one bow in I think 2010 or 11, and it was a Matthews Z7. It's the one I use today. And
You're still using it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
yeah. And have I shot a nicer, more recent bow? I don't. Maybe I've shot nearby. I don't know if I have.
I don't know.
I don't think I have. And so I just shoot it. I got it restrung for the first time. I don't know, about 18 months ago. Good as new.
Yeah.
I mean, it works. So
It's a 2007?
no, 10 or 11.
Okay.
The Z7.
C7. It's
Okay.
one of the best bows they've made.
So I consider myself a Matthews guy. What do you consider yourself? A Hoyt? Or do you let Ray determine this?
Yeah, well, Ray, I was Matthews. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I was Matthews, and then started going to the lodge, and Ray was selling Hoyts, and so he was like, he just shit on Matthews. He was like Hoyt, 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 Hoyt. So I got like 2 or 3 of them, and now he just got the Matthews kind of dealership here in town. Now he's a Matthews guy again, and so he's getting me back on the Matthews train. So.
Are Hoyt shitty again?
Hoyts are shit.
I just want to point out we have coordinated jean shorts on.
I know,
now.
right?
I mean,
I tell you-
boys are looking good. Thighs are out.
I like those camo. I need to find.
Are those Born Primitive?
Yeah, they're
I
my
ordered
favorite.
2 more. These are Born Primitive also. I ordered 2 more pair when I was in the airport yesterday.
They don't do the camo anymore.
Born Primitive.
Born primitive.
Jorts.
Yeah.
They're stretchy.
Yeah, these got a little stretch to them too.
Where are yours?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very, very pleased with these ones.
I made the boys whenever we were in Australia. I was wearing these, and they're like making fun of me. And we're in Australia. I'm like, look around, guys. Everybody in Australia is wearing these. So
Are they hooked?
They got up you. Jackson, you like your jorts now?
That was a yes.
Oh, all right. Welcome.
Jorts are the best.
So you went to, where'd you go to college? I read that this morning.
I went to Montana State.
Montana State. And and you have a business degree from Montana State. Then after you went to college, you ended up in Uganda with
Yep.
your wife. Did you meet your wife in college?
I did, yeah. Yep.
And what brought you guys to Uganda?
So we ended up graduating from college. We both went to Montana State. I had a business degree. She had a marketing degree. And it was an interesting moment where I felt kind of like everyone in the society is telling you to go get a degree and then get a good job with that degree. And then I landed in this amazing career right out of college where it was very high paying. It was a very great job, but it was kind of the opposite of what I really wanted to do. So, I'm stuck in an office, I'm on the phone, even though the benefits were great, the pay was great. It was very obvious that we kind of followed what the world was telling us to do, not what our hearts were telling us to do. So we ended up linking up with a Bozeman guy that had started going to Uganda in 2001. And it was all around Joseph Kony coming through Uganda. So Joseph Kony came in with the Lord's Resistance Army, which is infamous in quite a few movies because he was well known for using child soldiers as part of his army. And so it was the genocide. He came through, he massacred like 600,000 people.
Jeez.
I remember that.
Using like a big child soldier military. And so a Bozeman guy went over there to see what he could do to help in 2001. And then when I left kind of corporate America to go work for him, it was right after I landed in that first corporate job and knew that it wasn't for me. That was more like 2009, 2010. So he had about 8 years of experience learning kind of like what would work over there and what wouldn't work over there. And it was really focused on child rescue. So we had two things going on. One was because of the genocide, there was orphans all over the country. There still is, as a third world country, of course, Uganda always has like an orphan problem, but it was very accelerated back then because you already had starvation, poverty, third world components, but then you add the genocide on top of it. And so you're talking about like millions and millions and millions of orphans. And so his two big mission sets were how do we help orphans, but also how do we rescue child soldiers. So we started a compound, and the compound had, under those two mission sets, we would help rescue orphans, but then you're also able to kind of like secretively pull child soldiers off the front line and then get them into that compound as well. So it was insane.
Whereabouts, like, was it Cassini?
We were
Entebbe?
we were an hour north of Jinja and Kamuli.
Okay.
That's where we were at.
Whereabouts is that in northern Uganda?
That's in southern. So northern Uganda is Gulu. That's like right on the Sudan border.
I think I've been up there.
Yeah. It's a mess up there too.
It's tough to get those kids out of it. I mean, they're brainwashed at such a young age.
Mm-hmm. So when you were in Australia, I had John on, and he's a singer. He goes by the name of the Congo Cowboy, and super nice guy. One of the craziest stories I've ever heard. He's from the Congo. The rebels came in the middle of the night into his village. Were slaughtering everybody with machetes and shooting them. His family escaped, and they went and lived in the jungle for 6 months. And finally, someone came in a bus, loaded him up on a bus, took him to I forget where, and a neighboring country, and then where he lived there for 12 years in a refugee camp. Then finally won the lotto ticket and came over here to North Carolina. Then during COVID, came out here and started singing. It's
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years.
Nuts.
And he didn't have. He said, I remember getting my first pair of shoes. Like just an insane story.
Yeah.
And I've been over there a couple of times, and it's as soon as you get out of, what's the capital of Uganda?
It's
Entebbe.
No, yeah, it's Entebbe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you get like north of Entebbe out there, it gets pretty ruthless. And I remember one of the things, that they warned us about is like, hey, we had drivers, and if you get in an accident, I think it happened, like a cycle before we deployed, they grabbed one of the drivers after the guys took off. I forget what guys it was, maybe Army guys. I couldn't tell you, and stack tires around the driver and burn them.
Yeah.
Like it's ruthless.
We saw some of that too.
I got in an accident over there, and I had to get out of there real quick, and it was because people just gather real quick, and if you're white, they assume it's your fault, and you're bringing in some sort of negativity, and they'll kill you.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
The mob justice.
Yeah.
You like can't even defend yourself from it most of the time.
And it happens so quick.
Yeah.
It happens in India. That happens in India too.
Really? Mm-hmm. We were in a rollover up north, and as soon as we all got out of the vehicle, I don't know, maybe it took us 30 seconds to a minute to get everyone out, because we were upside down. There's glass everywhere. There was a big mob around. And luckily, some Army guys came cruising by, and we just hopped in, got in where we could fit in, and just
go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Left it.
Yeah.
It's crazy there, too. Like, you'll be in the middle of nowhere, roll over, think no one's around.
That's what happened. We were out in the country.
And then all of a sudden, thousands of people around.
Yeah. It happens really, really quick.
Yeah,
so how long would you go over for, and how many years did you do that?
I worked there for about 2 years, so it was a full-time gig. And the compound was awesome.
You lived in Uganda for 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
My wife would come back and forth. She ended up going back to nursing school after seeing what she saw in Uganda. She had that marketing degree, went back to nursing, so she would come back and forth, and then I was over there. And the compound was it was amazing, especially with what I was struggling with at that time. Now I'm outside every day, physically active every day. You're away from screens and technology, in nature, doing a ton of hard physical work. A big part of what we were doing was some of that micro business stuff also. So we dug a tilapia pond so the kids knew how to buy and sell fish. We had a chicken operation, a dairy cow operation, a pineapple grove. So a big part of it was if you rescued a child soldier, you want to somehow help them transform to be a future leader of Uganda rather than just a victim their whole life. So a big part of it was teaching them trade skills so that eventually they could kind of graduate out of that compound. But it was nuts. I mean, one of the kids that was a big testimony story was this kid named Daniel. And Daniel, Coney's troops came into his village in the middle of the night. They lined up all of the 10, 11, 12-year-old boys. And so there was 17 of them in a line. And then one of the guys pulled out just this old Smith & Wesson revolver and held it right to his brother's forehead and said, "Will you join the LRA?" And he said no, and he pulled the trigger. Jeez. And then so Daniel was next in line, went to Daniel. He said yes. And that same night, they sent him in to a village, and he had to massacre 12 people with a machete in the middle of the night. The first night of being recruited in the LRA.
Ruthless over there.
So what was the process, and then getting those kids out of there and rehabilitating them and stuff like that? I mean, it had to be challenging. Obviously.
Yeah. The only way you could really do it was after the war ended, you could do it because Coney ended up being chased out of Uganda and went into the Congo, and then Obama sent special operations after him 12.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I believe so, right?
I think it's undeclared, whether he's killed or alive.
Yeah, I remember the strikes going on. I remember that when that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A big thing because he was in the canopy of the Congo, and so very difficult to find or find where he was hiding out.
Were you ever scared over there? Any intel reports hey, these guys are coming because they know what you're doing and they're going to take the kids out of your orphanage,
Most of it for me was what we were talking about a minute ago was the mob justice thing. Yeah. Because I think even without any sort of, as a civilian, without any sort of QRF type components at all, even with firearms, stuff like that, you just felt like you're gonna get one shot off and 30 guys are gonna be on you instantly because there's always so many people.
And you guys had guns over there? You were armed? Or did you pick up some AKs or maybe not?
Yeah, maybe not.
Got it. Yeah.
It's a crazy place.
I bet it sounds like it.
So when you came home, did you have the idea for Mountain Tough before you came home?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to leave though? Were you burnt out?
No, it's funny. We loved it.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it a lot. And then my wife got pregnant over there with our first daughter.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what drove us home.
Yeah.
Was getting her delivered in Bozeman and in a like safe, secure
Didn't want to
environment.
have it in Uganda?
What were your living conditions like? Your daily living conditions? Where you and your wife?
So you think about like some of those third world environments, you have a lot of that like concrete floor housing, brick kind of walls, more like a 10 by 10, 10 by 12 scenario. No power, no running water. You had to like go out and pump it out of the well each morning. You had to take the like cold bucket showers where you pour the cold bucket, soap up, pour it again to rinse off. But we loved it. I mean, it incredibly rewarding. We had about 240 kids there.
Oh, wow.
And so just tons of fun. A big thing that struck us right away is like third world poverty. People that are outside of the conflict zone are very, very happy. Like a lot of them are full of so much joy and so much happiness without so many like distractions that a lot of Americans have. That hit us pretty hard right away. It was like, man, these people have nothing at all, and they're really, really happy, especially compared to like Americans. They're incredibly happy. And so we were having a blast over there. We didn't really want to come home.
Why do you think that is? Just because they're not heavily influenced by, devices and what's on TV and, the next have and have not item?
We've talked about it a lot. I think a big part of it is community for sure.
Yeah.
I think the way you see them hanging out together, eating together, extended family around, aunts, uncles, community, and just socially hanging out more is a big part of their culture.
I think that's where we get it wrong, is the sense of community. I think we're communal beings. I think we're supposed to hang out with each other more, take care of each other more, look out for each other more. And I was reading something, and I believe the decline of that started with this start of farming and people owning their own plots of land. Because then it turned into, hey, this is my land, not yours. And that started the separation of the community. Vice, hey, this is the land, and we're all going to build on it. We're all going to farm on it, and pull, harvest animals, to pull, what we can from the land in any way possible. And it's for all of us. It's for the community. Then we literally sectioned that off and started slowly getting away from that. And I think we need to go back towards it more. I think a lot of folks are lonely, and they don't want to approach somebody else because they don't want to intrude, and that same thing's happening back to them. So it's just a vicious cycle of folks being lonely and people not taking care of each other. And I think it's wrong.
Yeah, you guys, I would assume like both of you struggle with that, because I definitely do, especially as I've gotten older. It seems harder the older you get, or maybe it's more difficult kind of like in this like stress bubble generation of life, like 40s, kids, bills, payments. You feel like very isolated, very alone. But with like both of your backgrounds, like coming out of the military and coming out of football, you had some of that brotherhood for
sure.
a big part of your life, and now that brotherhood,
most part of your life.
yeah.
And it's odd that people I'm going to say outside the military and team sports where that you have people that you can count on, like heavily count on. A lot of folks just don't have that. Like they have a few friends here and there, and they ebb and flow. They'll have a couple lifelong friends that they keep in contact with, but no true like, hey, I'm in a pinch, or just hey, are you doing all right? I notice you're off a little bit. I think all that's going away. If you look inside any freaking house in the United States, there's so many problems that everyone has, and they're all like similar, right? And
But you feel alone if you're not talking.
So why don't we link arms and fight these problems together?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I believe. And I think society has pushed us into this isolation bubble of, hey, this is your house and you're the only one that could take care of it, and things of that nature, which is true to an extent. But we just need to bring this into community back. Right? And you guys at Mountain Tough, you're forming a great community. So I'd like to get into Mountain Tough and what the original idea was.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Yeah, and that was a part of it for sure. I think what we saw in Africa, we knew that community needed to be one of our ethos and principles, and that was from what we saw over there. But a lot of the other stuff that was building to this like Mountain Tough kickoff moment was the other big component was my childhood. So it was all of that archery, elk hunting, and that being my kind of big passion and obsession. And we were doing all, and still even now for, most of the Mountain Tough community and myself, we're building and designing a lot of programs and concepts over the idea of like public land, do it yourself, remote backcountry hunting, just because that's what I was doing so much of at the time under the creation of Mountain Tough. So when I started hunting a lot archery in the early like 2000s, it was a lot of like one buddy, maybe alone, maybe two buddies. And so you had to really navigate in Montana, especially like going in 7 miles with your camp and then letting the mountain beat you up for a few days. Maybe you're successful on like day 3, 4, or 5. So the mountain's already beat you up for 5 days. And then in that scenario with like one friend or maybe two friends, now you have like 240 pounds of meat to get off the mountain. And so you got to come out 7 miles with that 80-pound pack, go back in, come out with that 80-pound pack, go back in, come out. And so I knew for a long time from that upbringing that there are unique ways you can train for this that can make a difference. And so as I started exploring that, a lot of my like exploration in that was in college, because right when I got to Montana State, that was definitely where I was crazy obsessed with archery, elk hunting. And that's all we thought about, all we did, trying to get tags in all Rocky Mountain Western states back then. So you're bouncing around from Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona. It was a little easier than it is now to get some of those tags. So you would go from one hunt to the next hunt, to the next hunt, to the next hunt. And we were lifting a lot. And we were lifting a bunch to see how we could be better in the backcountry. And like a lot of the guys we were lifting with were wildland firefighters. And so they were thinking the same thing, like I need to perform with heavy packs all summer for my job. And it definitely made a huge difference. It made a huge difference for like the pack out especially. And then I met my wife that sophomore year of college, and she was a really passionate runner. So I always talk about it where some people run for the fitness, some people love to run. So like I hate running.
Me too.
But she gets like the runner's high and loves running.
I've
never got it.
Never ever experienced that.
Yeah. So that took us kind of down this different route where I'd been doing all the lifting with the wildland guys, and then she, as a runner, we started doing marathons, and we just kind of go all in on anything we decide to do.
You run marathons now?
Yeah.
Oh,
so we did a marathon a month for a year.
What?
Yeah.
People.
Just went over the top.
Oh my gosh.
And then that led.
Any injuries?
No injuries. Yeah.
Would you at that point, if you're doing a marathon a month, you're just maintaining a little bit, from marathon to marathon?
Yeah, like this race is training you for the next race type thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. And then that led us kind of like into the ultras. Then the ultras were a lot of like 50Ks, 50 milers.
Ultra, explain that to me.
So an ultra they define as like anything over marathon distance.
Okay.
So
longer.
Yeah.
More runner high.
It's more ultra.
What's the furthest you've ran?
The furthest I ran was the rim to rim to rim, which is right under 50 miles.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that one's cool though. really
Yeah,
cool.
it sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
Did you, when you got back from Uganda, did you know that you wanted to, did you know what you wanted to do next?
So that's the Uganda thing kind of created a reverse burn the ship scenario for me, because my wife and I were pretty naive around like what a first kid was going to do to our life.
Yeah.
I think
I think everyone is.
I think everyone
Me
is.
too.
Yeah. So in our head at that time, we're like, hey, we'll just go home to Bozeman, stay with friends and family for 6 weeks, have this child delivered, and then we'll figure out a way to come back and run the compound in Uganda. That was our plan.
Okay.
Because we loved it so much.
Sure.
And we were so naive about children.
Yeah.
But then when my daughter came out, I was like, dude, there's no way we're going back for a while.
Yeah.
But up until she was delivered, I kind of thought we were going back. So that created this weird moment where like we had no jobs now. I have this brand new baby now.
Yep.
And we're staying with friends. We'd like sold a
Some
bunch.
good friends.
Yeah. Good friends. We'd sold a bunch of stuff to make the Uganda thing happen. Everything else is in storage. Brand new baby. But it was a cool burn the ships because I didn't intentionally do it that way. But at that moment, because of all these years of thinking about the Mountain Tough idea, it was like, now's the time to do it, because the instinct was like, go back to corporate America, get a high paying job for providing for this baby.
Sure.
But I knew that like life had already kind of trained us to live off nothing. Like we were able to live off nothing doing the Uganda stuff. And so I knew like starting a business, you're going to have to live off nothing for a while. And so that's when we kicked it off. It was when I was back at home with this newborn. I was like, let's get this Mountain Tough thing going. I'd been thinking about it for years. I knew that a mountain athlete, a backcountry hunter, was a very unique athlete.
Sure.
And I knew for years that no one was training them at an elite level. No one was focusing on them like you would like a military or an NFL athlete. And so that's when we went for it. And it was crazy bootstrap. Like a friend designed the logo. I printed the logo on a flyer, and then it said looking to train backcountry hunters, and it was the tear off like phone number flyer. And I hung it at Big Sky Archery, which is our local bow shop. And 3 guys called at first, and I started training them in the park behind my house, and that was 9 years ago. So it's crazy.
Wow.
It's just been organic.
So talk through the progression to where you're at now.
Yeah, the big part of the progression was started in those park sessions. The park sessions were all around like, how can we train a mountain hunter, high elevation, rugged terrain, multiple days, and then the ability to handle extremely heavy packs. The park sessions started going from like a morning session to morning and noon, and then it went from like morning, noon to evening. So running like 3 classes a day. Then we leased a facility, went into that facility. When I leased and went into that first facility, I knew 2 things at that time from like my past life experience. The first thing I knew is I knew right away with Mountain Tough that I'd never wanted it to be like a local gym or like a local training facility. I always knew that I wanted it to be scalable online so that the whole world would have access to it. And then I also knew that really what was separating all consistently successful backcountry hunters was their mindset. So like we were going to train them physically, but when I looked around like at the legends in like the Montana hunting community, it was obvious to me that they're not all physical specimens, but they're all super mentally tough. And so when I was running those park sessions, I knew that we had to be one of the best in the world at mental toughness. And I knew that this had to be something that we could make available to go online. And so this was pre-apps, but the first 2 things I did was I hired a couple guys to help me with how we could make these guys more mentally tough. So the first 2 guys I hired was I hired a SEAL, Alex Fickler, and he came in from SEAL Team 5, and he was a Montana kid. He was just getting out. And then I hired a Lieutenant Colonel Army Ranger, same thing. He had done this amazing career and had retired in Bozeman, and I convinced him to help me and Alex do what we could do to bake in a lot of mindset training into our programming. And then in 2017, we were focused on testing everything we could do for a mountain hunter, incorporating everything I knew and they knew from the military around mental toughness. And then we pushed it online in 2017, but it was all pre-apps. It was like buy Mountain Tough pre-season prep, lifetime access, and you logged into like a website to watch all the videos. But when we launched that very first one, it was kind of like the market was sitting there waiting for it to exist. I think so many hunters had like been beaten up by backcountry hunts, and then a lot of like the Midwest hunters were intimidated by the elevation. They were intimidated to go to Colorado, but no one had ever said like, here's a step-by-step plan to make sure you're going to thrive on this trip. So when we launched that first one, it just skyrocketed.
That's awesome.
What's up, guys? Sam Mackey here. I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Spartan Forge. Spartan Forge has no doubt made me a more effective and efficient hunter. Spartan Forge was founded by former U.S. Special Operations Intelligence Officer Bill Thompson, who took his 21 years of military experience fighting the global war on terror and applied his learnings to his true love, whitetail hunting. My favorite feature on the Spartan Forge app is the LiDAR for finding draws and funnels. It also has an AI deer movement prediction tool, so you know when and where to go. It has historical wind plots for selecting stand locations, and Cyber Scout for just about anything else I need to know. Spartan Forge, a veteran-owned and operated American mapping and scouting company. Use promo code OUTSIDER20 to save 20% on a premium membership to Spartan Forge. That's OUTSIDER20, OUTSIDER20. So mental toughness and leadership kind of fall into this same category for me. There's some folks, it's just part of their pedigree and their upbringing, and they just have it. And then, there's other folks that lack it a little bit or a lot. And so my question to you is, do you think leadership and mental toughness, I know you haven't spoken about leadership yet, but can be taught? And if so, can that person that lacks it get to the same level that the person that it just as a natural, mentally tough or natural leader, can he get to that level by being taught?
Yeah, this is my favorite conversation. And now, like, we were just at the Ranger Regiment all week, so we've been talking about this a tremendous amount. And I think it can be taught for sure. And I think it can be taught by running people through hard things. So having people go through adversity and adversity and adversity and adversity, I'm a true believer that can take someone who's mentally weak and make them mentally strong. But can everyone operate out at that elite level of mental toughness without some childhood traits or some like genetic traits? I'm still like uncertain about the final answer to that question. Yeah. It's really fascinating.
What do you think?
No. I think you can get to a point.
Yeah.
But I mean, really hard, mentally tough people, I think they just got it. I think you can put people through certain things. They can have trauma and stuff like that. But I think at a certain point, they're mentally just going to break just because they're just not built like that.
Do you think it's because of their upbringing?
Yeah, there's probably a lot. I think there's a lot to do with that. And in today's world, people are just kind of soft. There's not a lot of adversity and difficulties for a lot of people anymore.
Who do you think is?
And I think as parents, we're all parents. Like you in today's society, like we want to make life as easy as possible for our kids, which is probably hurting them in the long run.
Yeah, because you don't want to put your kids through anything that you went through that was negative that made you resilient, right? And because everyone's trying to be a better father than their father was, right? And or should try. And so how do you know, if you give your kids that perfect life, how do you make them, you know, mentally resilient?
Yeah, it's a tough line.
Yeah.
It is tough.
Pound for pound, who do you think's more mentally tough, men or women?
Women.
I think women too.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really close.
The labor and delivery, man. It's insane to think about.
I just think it's in them.
Yeah.
More so.
100%.
It's ingrained, you know, in their being as a species, more so than men for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and not that this holds any metric to it, but more men quit on Naked and Afraid than women. Those women stick it out, dude, and it sucks.
It does.
You know?
You see it in the ultras too.
Do you?
Women. Oh yeah, just savage.
Yeah.
Just will not quit.
Yeah. So what are some practices you give or some techniques that you give your folks that might be, you know, lacking in the mental strength department? And do you have any extreme success stories from someone, you know, like that?
Yeah, for Mountain Tough now, like now if you fast forward to today, like there's some pretty comprehensive mindset and mental toughness training throughout the app. So now everyone's training on the app, and they're training on the app through a variety of programming. Most of it's fully coached. So like they're going to hit play in the app, and they're going to be coached essentially almost live with a Mountain Tough trainer. You'll see some other Mountain Tough athletes that you're benchmarking off of. You can do that with like full gear, minimal gear. But fitness wise, we're building a ton of mental toughness because Mountain Tough stuff is really difficult. So Mountain Tough training is hard, and because it's harder than most, it's building some mental toughness there, because you can't just do easy workouts without building any mental toughness. But then like ingrained and baked into everything we do is other mindset training techniques. So you might see things like a false finish would be a big one, where you're doing a workout and we're going to push you really hard to a moment that you think is the completion of the workout, and then you're going to find out that there is a whole nother component.
One.
Yeah, so it's like the false summit. You think you're there, but you're not there, and I mean that just mentally breaks people down all the time.
We used to do that in college. We'd be running, and you know, you do your 4 quarters, and you know, you do your last one, and then everyone's like, all right, fine. And they're like, nope, overtime, one more. It's like people would just, like you said, crumble to it.
Oh yeah.
That was every day in buds.
Really?
So, every day. You're like, oh yeah, I'm good. You know, that evolution's over. And then they just hit you with something even worse.
I mean, you probably get to a point just think it's never going to end.
Oh, my thought process was like, I don't care. They're good. They have to feed me.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And I just go to the next meal and be able to, you know, sit down and eat a meal. And most of the time, you know, 99% of the time is in the chow hall. And so you have your little sanctuary over your plate. And I load everything with ranch dressing, eat as much as I could, and get back at it. You know what I mean?
That's the interesting component of like your question around how much can you build. One of the things that we've seen a lot is with like even a really strong like general public population, we've ran like big training events on like a hunting conference, a Western hunting conference type scenario. You can put the false finish in there and you can actually see people cry. Like people will cry, they'll throw stuff at the wall, they'll walk out. And then we've ran a bunch of false finish scenarios at the military training we've done. And you'll see people not even blink. Like when you say the false finish in general pop, people will ask you to repeat it again. Like, are you sure you just said that? When you say it in the military, especially like special operations communities, they don't even pause. They just continue on to what you ask them to do, which that always is striking to me, because it's like, yeah, there is a way to make someone more mentally tough. But then in the military community, all of these guys, went through a selection to already decide like who was going to be there or not, which is fascinating.
They've mentally already decided that it's going to suck, and they're just going to power through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just who they are, and they've already made that conscious decision. Like, hey, this is what it's going to be. I'm just going to do it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, like you said, the general population, they've mentally decided, hey, I want to do this workout. Not, I don't mentally.
And then I'm getting my Starbucks. I can't wait to get my big sandwich.
Mentally, I don't want to go past my threshold and try to keep going.
Yeah. That predetermined decision is interesting.
So what are some tips for that, basic tips for, a guy like myself or Jay or anybody out there listening, like, hey, I just want to be able to carry a heavier ruck for longer. What are the intro workouts that you suggest?
Yeah, I think with what we've seen for sure with like Mountain Tough, what we've done now is we decide whether you're going to train with full gear or minimal gear. So a couple things we always work on when someone's first diving into the app is we decide if they're a beginner, intermediate, or elite athlete, and there's going to be a path for them. And then once we make that decision, then it's how do you train that fits your lifestyle the best so that you can consistently be training every day. So some people are home gym people, some people are going to a gym, and then some people are using minimal gear. And so whether you're an intermediate with minimal gear or a beginner with full gym gear, that kind of decides what path we're going to take you on in the app to get ready for a big backcountry hunt. So backcountry, most people like in America are hunting September, October, and we're going to encourage you to be training consistently for 16 weeks leading up to that hunt. So like 16 weeks is optimal for like muscular and cardio adaptations. We're going to decide if you're beginner and what kind of gear you're going to train on, or intermediate and elite, and then we're going to put you on that path. And then, a lot of people are just hit and play in their basement on the app, or they're like hit and play in the hotel gym, hit and play like in a robust home gym, and then following through like our programming. But baked into all of that for us is a lot of moments where we are going to put a ruck on your back, because that is a big thing for backcountry hunters that is not being done enough, or it's the only thing that they do. So like both don't work well, where if someone's training to get ready for like a Wyoming trip this fall, you'll see a lot where they just are rucking all the time, but they're not focused on their strength or their balance or their stabilization. But then for the most part, the majority is people are going to show up to that trip, and that's going to be the first time they put weight on their back. And that's where you really see people crumble and fall apart. And so for Mountain Tough, depending on what program you decide to go through your path, all of them you're going to see about once a week where we're having you do some ruck work, so some heavy pack work, or you're training with your heavy pack, or you're using your heavy pack for other movements is quite effective. So like heavy pack squats, heavy pack step ups, heavy pack lunges are like scientifically now are way more effective than just having you walk down the road or walk down the trail system.
Yeah. What's your go-to bag?
I'm a Stone Glacier guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the Stone Glacier packs. I love them.
Are they in Montana?
They are, yeah. Yeah, they're right next to us up in Bozeman.
Have you seen the packs that there's some sort of mechanism in it that it's like a robot frame type deal? Have you seen those?
No.
I saw them a handful of years ago, and it's a system that goes on your back down to like under your feet, if I remember correctly, or hooks to your legs, and it mimics your muscular system, so you can carry tons of weight on your back.
Dang.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever came to fruition. I saw it in maybe some prototype thing at some military event that I was at. But I just wonder if those made it to market yet. I haven't seen them in the military.
Like a cyborg?
Kind of, yeah. but it goes, like I said, I saw it one time, and it was one of those things that was too futuristic to even take a glance at. I'm like, I'm not going to have that for my next deployment, so I'm not going to look at this fucking thing, right? I just carried just a standard rucksack most of the time.
Yeah. What are your go-to boots?
I use Schnee boots.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, John Edwards.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
You're a great dude.
Yeah, he's a great dude. They make a great boot too.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you seen any success stories or folks like, hey, I was out of shape, I pulled a tag in Montana and followed your program, went out there, and boom, it helped me. Do you guys get that a lot?
Yeah, I mean, Mountain Tough, we get a lot of like testimonials every day, but the big testimonials that we see every day are more like life transformation testimonials. So people. We actually, like internally, we call it the positive bait and switch for Mountain Tough. So a big part of our brand is that we want people actually to be like always ready for anything. And we prioritize making men better men more than we do prioritizing someone like crushing a mountain hunt. And so because we prioritize that internally, we see a tremendous amount of life transformation stories because that's really what we're after. And the positive bait and switch is because we know that it takes something like a tag draw to usually get someone to sign up for Mountain Tough. But we know they signed up for Mountain Tough because of that tag draw, but now we have the chance to make this dude a whole different dude. And that's what gets us really fired up. And that's what you see inside of our app is like, yeah, you're going to get a great workout every day, but we're also going to expose you to like daily prayer. We're going to expose you to like mental toughness curriculum that's from the military. That's not a workout, but it's going to teach you like how to think about your mindset. We're going to hit you with, nutritional knowledge, like how to change up your diet, and then just a lot of content around like how can you be a better father, how can you be a better employee, boss, friend. That's kind of the full ecosystem you get into when you get into Mountain Tough, even though you thought you were just signing up to get ready for that tag you drew. And so the tag creates like this urgency.
You're sneaking all this other stuff in on them.
Yeah. So we're sneaking it in, and the testimonials you get back from that are amazing. I mean, that's what keeps us fired up.
So what's next for Mountain Tough?
So I think, we're continuing to grow, continuing to add a lot of different options to the app. I mean, now the amount of content in the app compared to just a few years ago is pretty insane. And we're doing a lot more events. How can we, like going back to the point that we started with around community and how it's kind of lacking in this generation, lacking in this country. Like, how can we rally people together a little bit more, especially in the hunting community, which is our bread and butter industry for Mountain Tough. So we've incorporated community building stuff like at Sheep Show in Reno, Western Hunt in Salt Lake. And it's kind of like, how can we bring these guys together and go through adversity together? So we started that last year with a huge workout at Sheep Show in Reno, and just a really nasty pack workout where 500 people from that show did it all right on the convention floor. And then the winner drew one of the best sheep hunts in the world.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, you had to finish the workout to be entered into the lottery though. So it became the best odds in the world because 1 out of 500, you can't beat that. And then
did all 500 finish?
No, we had like a 427 or something. Yeah.
Still quite a few.
Yeah. So doing a lot more of that as the app continues to grow. It's like, how else can we kind of pour into this industry that helped us so much?
Mm-hmm. I love the concept. I think it's great.
Me too.
It's been fun. It's been a fun ride.
I bet.
So you heading home today, or what do you got? You going out in Nashville? What's next for you?
My wife's she's flying down now.
All right.
Because I was gone all last week with that military training. So she's flying down now, and we're gonna hang out in Nashville for the weekend.
We'll do a little honky tonkin'.
Yeah.
All right.
It's my first time down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, first time.
Oh, you're gonna experience it.
It's busy down there.
All the time.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It is. There's people. I mean, there's We've got a condo downtown, and you look out the window 9:30, and people are lining up for the bars.
It's
in
insane.
the morning. Yeah, they don't just. I mean, they don't stop.
Yeah.
You know when do you fly out?
Monday.
I love flying out on an early Sunday or early Monday flight. There's some sorry souls in that airport, man. Sunglasses on, heads down.
A lot of regret at that airport.
Man.
A lot of regret.
I had no idea it was that hopping down there.
Yeah,
Oh my
it's,
goodness. Yeah.
I mean, one bachelorette party after another coming through here.
Yeah, they're all bachelorette parties.
And they're building a new stadium across the river. So I mean, that's going to add more retail and more stuff. I mean, the city's on fire.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What hunts you got this fall?
A couple cool ones. We're going to Alaska in August.
Oh, wow.
I'm really excited about this one. We're doing fly-in drop camp Alaska caribou, but it's going to be me and my 12-year-old daughter.
Oh, wow.
And then
there you go.
a guy named Lyle's Mountain Tough president, and he's bringing his 11-year-old daughter. So it's father-daughter, drop camp Alaska caribou. And so it's a DIY where they drop you and pick you up 7 days later.
Yeah.
And just to bring like our girls into wilderness that remote and let them see like how far you can get from some of these civilizations.
Sure.
I'm stoked about that.
That's going to be fun.
My buddy just did that, and I think he went backcountry by himself for 14 days. Got dropped off, shot 2 black bears and a grizzly. Shot his grizzly with his bow at 7 yards.
Nope. Alone?
No,
Alone.
thank you.
Alone.
That's gnarly.
His tent got blown off a
7
cliff down.
yards?
Yep, 7 yards.
You could reach out and touch it.
Yeah.
Gosh.
He said he was circling, or the grizzly was circling him and coming in on him, and he just held tight. And
Solo,
stuck him at
too.
7 yards. Yep.
Oh man, that's gnarly.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 yards, you miss or you don't hit them straight. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of those.
He was one of we worked together. He was my favorite new guy in my last platoon. Balls like a brass monkey. When he said that, some people are like 7 yards. Well, maybe it was 40, but I believe him 100%. It was 7 yards.
A lot of those guys have, when they do that archery hunt for those grizzlies, they have the guide backing them up with that rifle.
Yeah.
He had none of that.
Yeah, solo.
That's
Pretty
awesome.
insane, huh?
Yeah.
Bucket list hunt.
Oh man, for me, I got one of them done last year.
What was
The Mountain Tough logo is an ibex, and I picked the ibex in 2016 because it's known for being one of the toughest animals on earth. You see like the videos of snow leopards taking them off cliffs and stuff, and then they like get up, and then you see them on cliffs a lot of times where you're like, how did that thing even get on that cliff? So I picked the ibex, but we went to Kyrgyzstan in October.
Oh, nice.
To hunt ibex. So it took a long time to put that trip together. But that trip was incredible especially from the backcountry perspective. You guys have been to Montana, of course, and I always tell people that are like from Montana that it felt like there was like 1,000 paradise valleys. Like everywhere you looked in every direction. Kyrgyzstan is like 90% mountainous, 10% not. And it's about the size of South Dakota. And so most of that 90% mountainous is like 11, 12, 13, 14,000 feet. Ooh. And then we were 40 miles from China, and the China mountains separating Kyrgyzstan and China, that peak was at 19,000. And then just everywhere you look is like another 30-mile valley, 40-mile valley, just as far as you can see. And then no one is up there. So it's all nomadic. So the ranchers bring the livestock out of the backcountry in September, and so you have no trucks, no other hunters. Kyrgyzstan only allows 300 ibex hunters a year.
Oh wow!
So it'd be like going to Montana and there's only 300 elk hunters in the whole state. So you don't see a soul.
That's crazy.
And then you're riding into base camp on horseback, and you're going through like 2,000 old year grave sites, like from the Mongol Empire. And so you'd see these weird grave sites, and the horse culture was insane. It was cool.
That's awesome.
So what's your next one?
Next one, I don't know. I have a hard time passing on archery elk. I mean, bulls screaming in your face.
It's hard to beat.
It's hard to beat for me. I would almost rather archery elk hunt than anything out there.
It's hard to beat.
It is. But all right, brother, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
and I hope
appreciate
you
you
and
guys.
the wife have a great weekend in Nashville.
I hope you make it out alive.
Yeah. Send me a picture of yourself Monday morning at the airport.
Yeah, well, appreciate you
brother.
guys.
Excellent. That was a good one.